And then look at the verse again. God says, and dwell there. Live there, Jacob. Stay there. Live in that place where you met me. And then, look at the verse, God says, and make an altar there to God. Now, we have seen in Genesis occasions where the patriarchs voluntarily made an altar to worship God. This is the only time in Genesis that a patriarch is voluntold to make an altar and worship God. But do you see the prescription that God is giving Jacob here? He tells Jacob, go back to Bethel and resume your life of worship. You've drifted away. You've wandered off. So go back to Bethel. Build an altar and resume worshiping again. Do you see God's grace here? I mean, he just simply says, go back and resume a life of worship. This reminds me of how Jesus restored Peter. Remember, Peter denied the Lord, and after the resurrection, Jesus purposely sought Peter out. Tell the disciples I'll meet them in Galilee, and tell Peter in particular that I'll meet him. And then Jesus sought out Peter there on the shore of the Sea of Galilee and had breakfast with Peter. And Jesus simply said to Peter, Peter, do you love me? Well, then feed my sheep. That's it. That's it. It's real simple. Not Peter, I don't know if I can trust you again. Peter, you really blew it. Not Peter, you got to give me 100 push-ups and 100 pull-ups to be restored. Just, do you love me? And feed my sheep. And here, Jacob, go back to Bethel, build an altar, and start worshiping again. Now, when Jacob met with the Lord at Bethel some 20 or 30 years before, as he was leaving the promised land, fleeing from Esau, this is back in chapter 28, and God met with him there at Bethel. Jacob made a vow to the Lord. He made a commitment to the Lord. Jacob said to the Lord at Bethel 30 years before, if God will be with me and keep me in this way that I am going, and give me bread to eat and clothing to put on, so that I come back to my father's house in peace, then the Lord shall be my God. He makes a commitment. And then we're told in chapter 28 that Jacob set up a pillar of stone marking his commitment to God. But Jacob hasn't kept his commitment. He's drifted away. He's wandered away. And maybe you've made a vow to the Lord. Maybe you've made a commitment to the Lord that you haven't kept. And you've drifted. And so now God reminds him of Bethel, and Jacob is thinking back to the promises he made to the Lord at Bethel. So look at verse 2. And Jacob said to his household and to all who were with him, put away the foreign gods that are among you, purify yourselves, and change your garments. Then let us arise and go up to Bethel, and I will make an altar there to God, who answered me in the day of my distress, and has been with me in the way which I have gone, just as he promised to me at Bethel. Now, I wrote down, all right, Jacob. I wrote down, all right, Jacob, because Jacob is boldly leading his family now. Jacob is boldly leading his family to follow God. He takes a stand for God with his family. He tells his family, put away the foreign gods. Remember, Rachel stole the gods of her father Laban as they were leaving Haran. And there may be others in the family that we don't know about that have some foreign gods. We don't know. But Jacob here says, put away your foreign gods, which tells us that Jacob knows that there are members of his family that have idols. He knows it. And he's allowed it. As the dad, as the father, as the leader of the family, he knows some of the members of the family, some of the kids maybe have idols. And he's just allowed it for years. And maybe he allowed idols in his home because he didn't want the confrontation with his family. He knew that it would just be a big fight, and so it was easier just to allow it and not say anything. But now that he is reminded of Bethel and he is reminded of the commitment that he made there to God, Jacob takes a stand in his home. And he tells his family, I made a commitment to God to follow him and serve him. And so we can't have this kind of stuff in our house anymore. It's just not acceptable anymore. It's got to go. And yes, I've allowed it. Yes, I understand. I haven't said anything before this. I know I've permitted this. But we got to get rid of these idols. These idols that are in our home and in our family, they got to go. I want them out of the house. And you need to purify yourselves. You need to clean yourselves up morally. He says this to his family. And you need to change your garments. You're not allowed to dress like the Canaanites anymore. We're not going to act like Canaanites. You're not going to dress like Canaanites. You're not going to talk like Canaanites. You're not going to listen to the music of the Canaanites. I don't care if all the kids at your Canaanite school dress that way. You're not going to dress that way anymore. This is Jacob's, as for me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord moment. And you know what? As parents, I want to challenge you, challenge myself too, and I say this in particular to fathers, to courageously take a stand for Jesus Christ in your home. Take a stand. Don't allow things into your home that shouldn't be in a Christian home. Don't allow idols in your home. Don't allow anything into your family that becomes a bigger priority to your family than Jesus Christ. And I want to encourage you, if you have things in your home that take priority over Jesus Christ, be courageous enough to get rid of them. And to say, we're not going to do this anymore. We're followers of Christ. We're not going to allow this anymore. Make Christ preeminent in all things in your family. And you may get pushback. There may be some arguments, but it's worth it to take a stand for Christ.